Hello and welcome from Hong Kong. Behind me across a small stretch of water is Hong Kong Island itself, and within that the area known as Central, which is its financial district. It is some of the tallest skyscrapers in Southeast Asia, and yet the island upon which they stand is exactly the same size as Guernsey. Whilst Hong Kong has been around for some 180 years, its present-day ethos is Chinese and is built on a tradition of 3,000 years of Chinese history. In this context, Guernsey's heritage of some 800 years of independence has more than some respect. My name is Jacob Cherry. I'm the Senior Regulatory Advisor based in Hong Kong, working for the GFSC. My role involves providing regulatory feedback to new applicants on proposed license applications, reporting back to the Commission on significant market developments within the region, providing technical input and thought leadership on Guernsey's specialist industry and regulatory framework, and maintaining the Commission's good working relationships with other financial regulators in the region. Guernsey's fund structures are receiving greater attention from the Asia-Pacific region. There is considerable sophisticated cross-border funds expertise in Asia, notably in Australia, Japan and South Korea, and increasingly in China and Thailand. Hong Kong and Singapore are regional hubs for introducers arranging cross-border funds where the assets or investors are located in Asia-Pacific. The desire amongst Asian investors to diversify their holdings is driving the use of cross-border fund structures for investments into alternative asset classes, particularly into real estate in Canada, Germany, the UK and the USA. The private fund offerings introduced by Guernsey, Jersey and Luxembourg are gaining attention in Hong Kong as the industry looks for alternatives to Cayman's exempted fund. Interest in alternative domiciles is being driven by rising awareness amongst Asian fund promoters and managers of international norms regarding jurisdictional substance. The opportunity that I perceive for Guernsey's industry in relation to the One Belt, One Road initiatives is in providing specialist alternative asset administration to fund structures that are sourcing capital from European investors. While hubs like London and Hong Kong are looking to provide the fund management and are encouraging their industry's management firms to increase their exposure to these risky long-term investments, Guernsey may be able to plug a gap to improve the overall efficiency and soundness of any related cross-border investment structures. A similar case can be made for Guernsey to play a larger intermediary role in the green fund sector. Guernsey's industry may be able to lend credibility to the governance of investment structures that aim to finance green initiatives in Asia in order to attract those European investors that have a lower appetite for geopolitical risk. Of all of its financial sectors, China's insurance industry seems the most bullish about the prospect of greater competition in the domestic market by international players. In the international markets, the cross-border transfer of client data is a new challenge to these firms. China's new cybersecurity law has not reduced the burden of compliance with cross-border data protection legislation that internationalizing Chinese insurers now face. By contrast, reinsurance is relatively underdeveloped in China, and most of its reinsurance market players are foreign-owned. The Chinese government is now offering subsidies to domestic reinsurers to encourage the growth of this sector. The China Insurance Regulatory Commission imposes a 200 million renminbi minimum capital requirement on the major stakeholders of all domestic insurers in mainland China. This capital requirement also applies to parties wholly owning captive insurers, so there is considerable appetite among those firms that are able to use offshore domiciles that have more proportionate capital regimes for captive insurance. Guernsey appears to be the only credible Western captive centre that is proactively targeting these Chinese firms. Introducers in Hong Kong are receptive to the messaging that many offshore jurisdictions are highly compliant with the Financial Action Task Force recommendations. But knowing this fact, they are often less discerning of the differences between individual offshore jurisdictions and will steer their clients towards those with the lowest compliance costs. Guernsey PLC's messaging that one of the island's structures can provide greater peace of mind than those of many other international finance centres is very gradually beginning to gain some traction amongst sophisticated clients. Most top-tier firms are not offering structures for the avoidance of CRS reporting, as Hong Kong legislation includes provisions to criminally prosecute trust and corporate service providers that advise on how to avoid tax or avoid reporting tax. Some of the smaller firms in Hong Kong are still prone to bow to the pressure of a Chinese client to select a domicile for the avoidance of CRS reporting. Many of these firms are expected to exit the Hong Kong market with the impending introduction of an AML licensing framework next year. The Aircraft Registry has provided Guernsey plc with an entry point to attract clients to related financial services. This has gained a high level of attention in Asia. Guernsey's attraction to the Asian marketplace as a small, joined-up jurisdiction is that our industry can collaborate to build packages that are tailored to meet multiple financial needs of a firm in a given industry sector. Chinese tech firms are actually leading by many measures in their application of data analysis to the financial services sector. Due to the amount of direction that both the technology and the financial services sector receive from the Chinese government, there is little worry about the disruption of the banking sector in China. The technology firms already service the retail and small-medium enterprise sectors, many of which were previously unbanked, but they have not encroached on lending to the larger corporates, which remain the preserve of the state-owned banks. However, it's important to note that the space between the technology firms and the banks is shrinking. The private client sector is comparably underserved in Greater China, and this market is much less developed than in the West. Many of the innovations that are receiving attention are intended to eventually bring down the cost of offering wealth management products to private banking clients with less disposable assets. The focus is not on private banking as a people business, as it traditionally has been in Europe and the USA. Hong Kong is a significant regional hub for Asia-Pacific business across all sectors of the financial services industry and retains its unique position as a gateway to and from China. As Chinese markets continue to slowly open up further to international trade, Hong Kong may come to be superseded by mainland cities in its importance to Chinese firms and investors. But most expect that, due to its history, demographics, quality of living and sophistication, Hong Kong will remain the major jumping-off point for international firms looking to develop their interests in China. I am now receiving 2 or 3 cold calls per week, and it has been expressed to me by a Hong Kong market participant that whilst Guernsey was not on anyone's lips here some 12 months ago, now our financial services offering is being widely discussed across all sectors. So if you're planning to visit Hong Kong, my contact details are on the screen. Thank you for listening.